What's up everybody? Welcome back to the Vegan Demon YouTube channel. For the first time I can call myself a marathoner. Here is my finisher medal. So I am officially a marathoner, and in this video I'm going to do a little bit of a recap from my time in Thailand leading up to the race, and then the morning of the race day, and then what actually happened during the race and how I felt after the race. So let's get into it. In my previous video where I announced that I was running the marathon, I walked you through my training schedule. So my training leading up to the marathon was a maximum of 110 km in a week, and then I gave myself maybe about a 2-week taper, meaning I decreased my volume of running leading up to the race. And then actually the week of race day, I think I maybe ran about 50K before actual race day. So I definitely decreased my volume significantly to allow my body to recover and be as fresh as possible going into race day, which was Sunday. And as far as nutrition was concerned, if you follow me on Instagram, I was changing my diet to increase my carbohydrate intake. Usually I take in around 550 to 600 grams of carbs every day normally during my training schedule, but the 7 days leading up to the race, I increased my carb intake to 700 grams to replenish and keep my glycogen stores in my muscles very high, so I had all of that energy and glycogen for the actual race day on Sunday. And actually the day before race day on Saturday, the race organizers provided a pasta buffet lunch, which I definitely took advantage of. I had multiple plates of pasta and potatoes and bread to make sure that I just continued to hammer the carbs and top up all of my glycogen stores before the next day, which was Sunday race day. So on the actual morning of race day, the race started at 4:30, so I woke up around 2:30, immediately drank a bottle of Gatorade, and then for breakfast I had 2 bananas, 1 bagel with jam, a coffee, and then after that I had another Gatorade and a bottle of water with a noon electrolyte tablet in it. So the thing that I wanted to prioritize on the race day morning was carbohydrates, which is in the form of the bread and the bagel, and the jam and the Gatorade is a carbohydrate drink, as well as sodium, which is in the noon tablet. There's 350 milligrams of sodium in the noon tablet, and then 2 bottles of Gatorade that also has sodium in it. So I knew that I would be sweating a lot during the race, so I wanted to prioritize sodium as well as carbohydrates for the energy sources before the race. So when it actually came time for the race to begin, they put us in different corrals. So I was in corral A. It was just split up based on your predicted time that you had for your marathon. So I thought that I would finish under 3 hours and 30 minutes. So they kind of put everyone together so people weren't trampling over each other in the beginning or zigzagging trying to get around other people that are slower. So I was in the first corral, right on the start line pretty much. So at 4:30 is when the gun went off, and everything was going well up into about 12 to 15 km. So my target pace was around 4:55 to 5 minutes per kilometer. And so just looking at my splits here, 4:55, 4:57, 4:59, 4:58, 4:59, 4:59, 4:55, 4:56, 4:54, 4:59, 4:59, and then there was a little bit of a hill at kilometer 12, which was 5:12, and then 5:01, 4:59 at kilometer 14, and then I started to feel the beginnings of quad cramps. And at kilometer 14, it wasn't so bad at that time, but I definitely felt it start, and it started to get into my mind a little bit also. As far as cardio was concerned, I felt completely fine at that time. The only thing that I was worried about was the cramping and that it would continue to get worse. And unfortunately, it did continue to get worse. There were aid stations every 5 kilometers. And in the jungles of Thailand, that is not really enough. So I was carrying a handheld water bottle with 2 additional sodium tabs as well as my gels that I was taking. So the goal was to take a gel every 6 km, which is about every 30 minutes, which some may say that's more than you need, but I wanted to make sure that I was erring on the conservative side and being cautious and making sure that I gave myself more carbohydrates and more sodium than normal, because I knew that I would be sweating a lot. And that's typically how I go about my plan in Singapore as well. So I took a gel at 6 km, I took a gel at 12 km, and at the aid station around 12 km, I also took another noon tablet just to keep as much sodium in my system as possible to prevent cramping, because you're losing sodium when you're sweating so much. I was running without a shirt on as normal, so I was keeping my body as cool as possible. And at the aid stations, they also have ice sponges that are basically filled with ice water. It's a huge bucket of sponges that you can just take and dump all over yourself. And they also have Gatorade, and towards the end they actually had bananas and watermelon and coconuts if you wanted actual solid food to replenish your carbohydrates. But so going back to about 15 or so km, I definitely started to slow down a little bit. 508, 515, 525, 530, 540, 548, 551. That was at the half marathon point, 21K. And by that point, I kind of put myself into survival mode, because I knew that I wasn't going to hit my goal pace of 3 hours and 30, but I was determined to finish regardless of anything. So there eventually came a point when it was very painful in my quads, especially when I was cramping so much. So there were points when I had to basically walk. At first, it wasn't excruciating, but then it did become excruciating, definitely into the later 20 kms. So as soon as I hit the aid stations, I was putting the ice packs on my quads because they were extremely painful. And there were also some freezing spray that they had offered. So the volunteers were spraying my quads, and at that point my calves were also seizing up and I couldn't even walk. And also for some reason my lats and my neck, they were also cramping. So I'm a bit at a loss as far as what else I could have done, because I was taking in more than enough sodium that I thought. I was also drinking plain water in addition to the Gatorade, so I didn't want to have an upset stomach because I was taking in so much sugar and salt. So I did balance it out also with water, but it was just really frustrating because, you know, I had prepared so much for this race and I knew that my fitness was there to meet my goal. But it was a bit unfortunate and kind of, I guess, unlucky that I had to deal with these cramps. It was never a question to me whether I could finish the marathon distance, because I know that my fitness is at that level. So although this is an achievement to finish the marathon, and I'm very proud, I have my medal to show for it, but I am also quite disappointed in myself for not meeting my goal, because I did put in so much time and effort. I hit all of my training plans and my workouts, and I did really well leading up to it. But I'm trying to look at the silver lining and learn that this was my first marathon, and there are a lot of things that I can learn from this race to put into my plans going forward. So I think this was definitely a good experience, and I'm happy that I was able to kind of iron out the kinks in this first one so I can kind of improve on the next ones that I do. So actually, wrapping up the race itself, I did manage to finish in a time of 4 hours, 33 minutes, and 23 seconds. Like I said, that was much longer than my goal time was, but the priority was to finish, which I did. It was very challenging to overcome the pain, and when I use the word excruciating pain, it was excruciating. And if it was not my first marathon, I don't think I would have continued, because the toll that it took on my body was very large. Actually, once I crossed the finish line, I thought that I was okay, but my body continued to seize up. I actually needed to go to the medical tent and lay down. They actually put a ice blanket over my legs to try to help with the cramping, and I was also chugging water and Gatorades. I think I might have had probably 3 liters of water and another liter or 2 of Gatorade, just to try to replenish everything that I lost and to try to prevent the cramps from continuing. So they had very helpful and attentive medical staff. They were trying to stretch me as well, but unfortunately when I would try to stretch my calves, like I would flex my foot and then my quad would cramp again, and then I would try to stretch my quad and then my hamstring would cramp. So it was just an all-around cramp saga, to say the least. So as you might expect, the days after the marathon I was extremely sore. I have been trying to walk a lot and stretch and use the foam roller too to try to break up all of that built up lactic acid and sore muscles. So actually I can't even use the Theragun because it's too painful. So I've just been taking it easy day by day, continuing to hydrate and try to keep eating nutritious foods, and so I can get back on track and back to racing again. I've already been looking at other races that I want to run. I think maybe I'll go for a half marathon, 1 or 2, or maybe a 10K, just some other races to get under my belt, because this actually was my second race ever, let alone my first marathon. So I want to get some more experience in actual racing, so maybe my adrenaline won't be so pumping as much as it was for my second race overall in a foreign country, at a weird time. So hopefully I can just get some more experience running, and then this won't be as much of a problem. It'll just be another race and I'll be able to crush it like I do in my trainings. So that'll do it for this video. I just wanted to give you guys a quick recap of my very first marathon, and stay tuned for all of my other upcoming races. I will announce them as soon as I start to book them. Thank you for watching the video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you have anything to say in the comments, that would be appreciated too. It helps out the video a lot. If you are new, please subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next Vegan Demon video.